Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Hitting the Bar, the football podcast. I'm Chris Karle.
I'm Geoff Saunders.
I'm Steve Kenton.
Yes, Steve Kenton is with us, back for a little while, joining us on the podcast at the pointy end of the season. So we are going to have a little look at what's going to be happening over the next week and what's happened in the last week. But before that, Geoff, your trivia question.
There is, I believe, just one team in the whole of the Football League, and that includes the Premier League, that can lay claim to being in every position in their division in a single season.
In one season. They've covered the lot. So, we'll find out at the end of the show.
Which team is it?
Which team is it? We'll find out. All right, let's start with the FA Cup because Steve has got a smug grin on his face. Not only have Arsenal beaten Liverpool in the league in the last week, they also, against all our predictions, beat Manchester City. Now, Geoff and I, you'll have heard from London, listening to the podcast, Geoff and I have been very critical of Arteta. We call him the groundsman because he puts out the cones and waters the pitch, but very little else. However, he did seem to find Man City out. What did you reckon of that game, you guys?
That was a bit of a shocker, I've got to be honest with you. I was totally surprised because I predicted a 3 or 4-1 defeat. I really thought we were going to get hammered. As good as Arsenal are, it did show the paucity of Manchester City and the vulnerability.
Yeah, I think what that showed is if you can get past the press with Man City, and that back line, it's not terribly good, is it?
No, Arsenal could have hit 3 or 4 the other day. I mean, that's no understatement. And as I say, as good as Arsenal were, it was as bad as Man City, as bad a performance I've seen by City in the whole season. You know, it was a terrible performance.
Yeah, we were saying just before we started recording that Man City's goal difference and their points difference between them and Liverpool is a whole different thing. They've only conceded 6 more goals and yet they've, conceded 18 more points or whatever, however you work it out. So what's City's problem then?
The defence.
The defence.
It is as simple as that. It's the defence. He's not good enough. When they lost Aymeric Laporte for most of this season, he was clearly going to be out a long time and they didn't replace him. And they actually need, because they lost Vincent Kompany as well, they needed to buy last season 2 good centre-backs and they didn't buy any, and that's cost them.
I mean, ironically enough, they've conceded 35 goals this season in the Premier League, so it's I think the second best record. You don't expect that from City. You certainly don't expect them to go down 2-0. I mean, it was a real shock. I must be honest, I just did not see that coming.
No, I don't think anyone saw it coming, but let's be honest, Arteta's been there. He knows where the weaknesses in City are going to be, and people have been saying for a while, if you can get past that press, you stand a chance. And of course, the whole point of this Bielsa stroke Guardiola method of playing is the way you defend is you deprive the opposition of the ball, and they can't score while you've got the ball. So if you can get past that press, which Arsenal did very, very well, you're in with a shout.
Yeah, I think what has become very interesting is certainly when he first was appointed, Arteta was... there was a lot of head scratching going on from the Arsenal fans. Throughout the season there's been criticism of him, but to be fair, I mean, Arsenal have only lost 9 games all season. They've drawn an awful lot, but first of all, he's an emerging manager. He's not there yet. He's not there by any stretch of the imagination, and it takes time for any manager to bed in. Now, in recent weeks, now I know Liverpool had nothing to play for, but Arsenal have taken Liverpool apart. They took City apart earlier on in the season as well.
Arsenal didn't take Liverpool apart.
Well,
Liverpool,
I'd like to think they did.
Liverpool had 24 shots and Arsenal had 3.
Yeah, but
and
it was the result that counts.
The game was played in Arsenal's penalty area. Arsenal were just very lucky. You cannot compare the match against Liverpool, where Arsenal were just lucky Arsenal, to the City match where Arsenal deserved to win. Arsenal were the better team, and as far as Arteta is concerned, for me, it was the first match this season where you can say, I can see a shape now. I can see what he's trying to do.
But as we were discussing just before we started recording this show, Arsenal hadn't beaten a top 4, top 6 side in 27 games, and they've done it. Well, actually, they've done it 3 times in a season, haven't they? They've done Manchester City twice this season in the Cup and in the League, and they've done Liverpool as well. So something's going on at Arsenal. They're certainly becoming a more resolute side. They're not getting beaten as comfortably as perhaps they were under Emery. I know that Arsenal have obviously lost a couple of games coming back from the lockdown. I think every team has had a little bit of a strange period coming back from the lockdown, but Arsenal look a really resolute, solid side. And it looks like they are getting some sort of shape at the back, which is something Arsenal didn't have prior to the lockdown.
Well, the shape they had before was pear-shaped, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the people most surprised by the Arsenal defence are still the Arsenal defence.
Surprising themselves, yeah. You say Arteta is an emerging manager, Steve, but is that what a supposed top six side like Arsenal really should be aiming for? Shouldn't they have taken Ancelotti, waited for Arteta to hone his craft, such as it is? A bit of a risk, wasn't it?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, how long do you wait, though? Arsenal had the opportunity to take Jurgen Klopp. They should have taken him when he was available. They stuck with Arsene Wenger at the time. In hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, look at Klopp now. Look at where Arsenal are. And football's cyclical as well. You know, you have peaks and troughs. Arsenal at the moment haven't been pulling up any trees for the last few seasons, despite the odd FA Cup win here and there. You know, will an FA Cup win this season cover up any cracks? It'll cover up some, but there's still a lot of work to do to Arsenal. But you can certainly see the side is emerging from that trough rather than falling deeper into it.
I think the issue for Arsenal is what happens in the next couple of seasons. Firstly, can they keep Aubameyang? And I think the answer to that is no.
No, I agree with that.
And they need reinforcement in a lot of areas, particularly the defence. And they need to be able to get their £72 million wonder kid, Pepe, to play every match, not just when he feels like it. And the huge problem sitting behind all of this, the elephant in the room, is all of that costs money, and they haven't got any.
No, completely agree. I mean, Arsenal's defence at the moment, I mean, if you're looking at Tierney, Bellerin, Holding and one other, then that is Arsenal's defence. And it's not a bad defence now. I mean, they're starting to communicate, but what I really like, and I like Bernd Leno as a goalkeeper, but Martinez is looking fabulous. He really is looking good.
He looks a lot more solid than Leno. Yeah, I'm really impressed with him, actually. He's very good.
He's more vocal. He commands his area a lot better than Leno, and I'm not knocking Leno because he's a really good keeper. It's just Martinez has spent 10 seasons at Arsenal. He's their longest serving player. He's only played 32 games, and it leaves you scratching your head as to why he's only played 32 games, because if he's that good, what has happened previously?
Well, you say that, I think you're right about Martinelli, but you say the Arsenal defence are beginning to communicate now in the sense of, what are you doing? I don't know, what are you doing? That kind of communication.
Well, that's been pretty much the case all season, especially with David Luiz at the back.
Well, that was the issue, wasn't it? David Luiz had a really good game against City, and he's capable of having really good games. But he is equally as capable of having a David Luiz moment.
I still don't see him as a central defender in a back four. You can put him in a three. He's pretty. He's okay in a three. I see him more as a defensive midfielder. I don't see him as an outright central defender, though.
Yeah, I mean, his instinct is always to look to play the pass, to do something, and defenders' instincts are very different. I mean, I used to be a winger, and I was comfortable. I had the sideline at my back. I knew where the pitch was. I knew everything. And they asked me to play in midfield, central midfield once, and I was just completely lost because everything I was used to was completely different. And in the time it takes you to think, that, a man can run 10 yards in the time it takes you to think. A man can run 10 yards.
Not instinctive, so you have to think.
Yeah, you have to think, and that's a second. A man can run 10 yards in a second, so you're dead immediately. And this is the position David Luiz is in. He's having to think. John Terry never had
just as well, really.
Fortunately, yeah. But everything was instinctive. He knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, I mean, what John Terry lacked in pace, and he had no pace. But you're right. His positional sense was excellent, which made him one of the best defenders in the Premier League.
Yeah, but he also had fantastic teacher in Ricardo Carvalho, didn't he?
Yeah, that's very true. That's a really good point, actually. But if you look at David Luiz, I mean, his passing ability is absolutely exquisite. He's a really good. He can see passes that you just think, where did that come from?
Oh, if you want someone to ping a 60-yard pass to the foot of a forward, David Luiz is your man.
So he's being played out of position then, because that's not a defensive role at all.
Yeah, and we on this show we've been saying this since he arrived. We've been saying this. What is he doing, being played in central defence?
So is that Arteta's fault then? Must be, mustn't it?
Arteta, Emery,
just to defend the groundsman for a second, and I promise I won't ever do it again.
Yeah, no, I'm holding you to account here.
Yeah, but he's a manager and he has certain assets, and some of those assets are injured and he can't use them. So he's got to put 11 on the pitch, and he's got to try and come up with the best defence he can. And sometimes that has had to be a 4, not a 3. I think from now on he's going to default towards a 3 every single time he can.
Because it worked.
Well, it worked. Well, if it worked against Manchester City,
It should work against everybody, yeah.
well, yeah, you've just got to get them all to buy into it and say, okay, this is what we're doing, boys.
There's also the question, is David Luiz actually a worse defender than Mustafi or Socrates?
Yeah, the competition's not great,
Yeah,
is it? That's the trouble. He's playing himself into a role that he doesn't need or want because the other people are worse than him. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. I'll tell you who's really emerged, and he's actually turning into a really decent player, or he always was a decent player, but now he's showing it. It's Granit Xhaka. Granit Xhaka looks decent.
Since he disgraced himself, which seems like a long time ago now.
It was actually this season.
It was this season, yeah, I can't believe that.
He's turned it around. I mean, he looks the player that we actually bought.
The one you thought he was, yeah.
He looks the player who plays for Switzerland.
Yeah, he looks like a decent player. And it does make me wonder if we do need to strengthen in that position, because if he can continue in that vein of form, then I think we've got a really good midfielder there.
So suddenly, David Luiz gets played in the right position, Xhaka starts playing as he was expected to play, and Arsenal suddenly look a decent team. Is that what?
Yeah, play players in their correct positions.
I don't like the sound of that at all. I really don't.
But if you play players in their correct positions, as Geoff pointed out, you start to function. You see things as you would a player put a player in the central midfield. He's got a field of vision that he's used to seeing. As Geoff rightly pointed out, like you say, you can't play a winger in central midfield. It just doesn't work because you're not used to that position. So everything that Geoff said, actually, I fully endorse, and I think that's why Arsenal are starting to look like a decent side.
Well, yes, starting is the word there. They've got
can they continue? And
can they get the players that can take them on to the next step? Because you're going to have to replace Aubameyang. And there are other things. I mean, Tierney, I think, will be a very, very good fullback. And potentially he is that good, but he's prone to the odd ricket, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you bring up Aubameyang, and I agree with you. I don't think Aubameyang's going to be there next season, but there's no reason why Lacazette can't be shifted into Aubameyang's position, bring Pepe across, and use Pepe as a second striker rather than what he is at the moment, which I don't know what he is. I don't know what they're trying to do with Pepe, because he looks like a player who's out of position as well.
I think you're going to need another striker no matter where you play Lacazette. You need a replacement for Aubameyang, and there isn't one, is there? Not at the price Arsenal are prepared to pay, I don't think.
That's the issue. And
I mean, that's me, basically. The amount of money they're willing to pay, they get me or Steve, or you know what I mean? They're not going to get an Aubameyang class player, are they?
It depends how much money they can scrape together. They ought to be able to get Jovic out of Real Madrid for 50 million. But if Arsenal can afford that, I'll actually be surprised.
Well, he is on the market because I think Real Madrid want him out, don't they? He's had a nightmare there.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say he's had a nightmare. I mean, he's been very, very badly treated. But
yeah, I mean, a nightmare, not he's playing nightmarishly. Yeah. His personal experience has been a nightmare.
Exactly. But he's the genuine article. He's a 25-goal-a-year centre-forward.
If Arsenal can get Özil off the wage book as well, that might help us.
The best you can do is you subsidise half his wages.
If that's where they've got to go with that, then so be it, because they're not going to play him. I mean, and I like Özil. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a player that's lost his way, because Arsenal in the past couple of seasons have lost their way.
He has a bit, but he knows his way to the bank, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he lost his way in the German team as well, which kind of suggests that it is him, not the place where he is, doesn't it?
Possibly.
And he, from a very, very promising start in that German team with Sami Khedira, he then started to play when he wanted to play, and at Arsenal he plays when he wants to play.
Yeah,
and you don't want that in the central midfielder. You looking for somebody to dominate that place.
He's been a bit of a flat track bully, really. I mean, he's played well against lesser sides. You put him up against Liverpool, Man City, Man United, and Chelsea, and he just disappears.
Yes, Arsenal coming around a little bit. Both Geoff and I have been very critical of Arsenal, as everybody has, really. We've got to hold our hands up and say, decent performance against City. Are they turning it around? Maybe it's too early to tell, too late in the season. But Tottenham, of course, 5 points above Arsenal. Arsenal have got a game in hand, and Arsenal are going to be playing Aston Villa and
Watford.
Yeah. So they've got quite an easy sort of run in. However, Tottenham's performance against Leicester on Sunday, even Geoff held his hand up and said that they put in a solid performance. And I would say that it's taken him a while style, but maybe Mourinho is stamping his authority on, and his style of play, such as it is, on Tottenham, and because they've been very, very good the last. They've lost one in the last, I don't know what it is, 9 games, something like that, 7. They've lost one in the last 7 games. They've won 3 in a row, and they were very, very good against Leicester. The other point is everybody's saying Harry Kane, is not playing well under Mourinho. He scored 13 goals in 18 games. You don't want much better than that from a striker.
Well, no. Although, in fact, if you look in history, Kane's return overall is better than that. But I think I believe the situation is more down to Kane getting match fit.
Yeah, he's been out a while.
Than down to Mourinho. And every time that you see these nonsense stories in the newspapers about, what is Kane and what's he good at and is he really that good? It's always on the back of him coming back from an injury, and he does appear to be injury prone.
Yes, that's his only fault, I think, because
I think it is.
The last 3 games that you and I have watched together, Kane has been, even when Tottenham have not been great going forward, you've seen him on the halfway line, collecting balls and starting the attack again. You've seen him heading balls out for a corner to save a goal going in against them. He's all over the pitch, working hard.
I think if you wanted to see a sign of Mourinho, it will be when Kane stops doing that. When Mourinho says, look, you've only got so much energy in 95 minutes here. Stop doing that, please.
Stay at the front.
We got defenders who can do that.
But we haven't.
I actually think that Kane's also got an awful lot of control and carries a lot of weight in the dressing room. It's no secret that obviously when Kane's back, Tottenham improve. But I don't think that's necessarily just on the pitch. I think off the pitch as well. Off the pitch, I think that he's such a massive influence in that dressing room. He gives Tottenham that extra percentage to play a lot better than perhaps they should be playing with the quality of players that they have at the moment.
He's definitely highly liked by all the other players. There was a big reveal yesterday, I think it was, or on Sunday. He posted it on Instagram and everywhere else. Gender reveal, because his wife is pregnant and they're going to have a baby boy. And it was all very normal family looking and everything, and all the other players are congratulating him. And I do feel that he is that kind of steadying influence, just as a family man and a good guy. Not necessarily a leader, but just somebody that people like. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And he definitely is a leader. He is a leader as well. Did you know he's sponsoring Leyton Orient? He's sponsoring Leyton Orient.
He's sponsoring them?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
They need a sponsor, and he's got the money, and he enjoyed his time on loan there. He's sponsoring them.
I don't know. I think that's great that he's using his money in that way to save a little football club. Yeah. All due respect to Leyton Orient, the O's.
Little football club, they're massive. They're a massive side.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
But seriously, though, is that actually allowed to be involved in another football club? It's not like Leyton Orient are a threat to Tottenham's position.
No, exactly. I think it is allowed, but yeah.
Yeah, well done.
I think you can have involvement as long as they're not in the same division. It's something along those lines.
Must be the same division thing then. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a very sort of human thing for him to do.
It is. Yeah. Well, that's what I think
he's about.
That's what I was saying about him. Showing the family reveal and the delight on his wife's face, and they all look very normal. And I think he is a very human, obviously he is, but a very human person. Yeah, in a sense, very normal, grounded, down-to-earth guy. And that is the probably only hope we've got of Kane staying at Tottenham, is that he is that kind of person, that he might stay.
Yeah.
But nobody's ever come in for him yet. What will happen when somebody does?
I think what will happen when he realises I'm 26, 27 and I've got to start winning something. So, I mean, basically, the Euros next year might be his best chance of winning anything, to be honest.
I'll still maintain he's after Alan Shearer's Premier League record, which I think he might well get as well.
Wouldn't he rather have a Champions League winners medal than beating Shearer? Going to Madrid and winning the Champions League, or staying at Tottenham and in 5 years' time, everybody saying, well done, you've beaten Shearer's record. You've won 1 League Cup in that time. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, but Kane's likeable when Shearer isn't.
Well, there is that, yeah.
Did you know another interesting fact about Harry Kane?
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 golden retrievers.
Has he now?
Yeah, and which is always a sign of a good person. If they own if you own golden retrievers, I don't know any bad person who owns a golden retriever. And he's named them Brady and Wilson.
After Liam Brady and Bob Wilson?
Strangely, no. After Tom Brady and Russell Wilson, quarterbacks of the New England Patriots.
Well, that's
no. I don't believe a word of that. It's Bob Wilson and Liam Brady, because he played for Arsenal for about a week, did Harry Kane.
And that just goes to prove that doesn't make him a good person, because he's named them after Arsenal Arsenal players, and he's forever kicking his dogs.
He's named them after the best two quarterbacks in the NFL.
He's a big fan of American
Very
football.
Big fan, yeah.
And because, of course, the Tottenham Stadium, the beautifully named Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, is used for American football.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so Tottenham looking quite good under Mourinho. There is a statistic, of course, that if you take it from match day 14, I think it was, when Mourinho's first game, if you take the league from that point on, Tottenham would be in the top 4. And if you look at the current top 5, for Tottenham to finish 6th, I would be delighted this season, because you've got Liverpool, who've been outstanding, Man City, who are always good, you've got Chelsea, Leicester and Man United, 5 teams who have been exceptional this season. So for Tottenham to even finish 6th, I think is pretty good, which we may do, and for them to have been in the top 4 under Mourinho, considering we were 14th and not looking like moving from 14th when he took over, despite himself, Geoff, or because of him, either way, that's not bad.
No, it's very good. It's very good. Yeah, I'd still question Barchester United being up there, Get a penalty, win the game, Manchester United,
Yeah, they don't seem to win when they don't get a penalty.
And it's not just that they've got the most penalties, I think, in Premier League history this season, but also the number of opposition goals that have been wiped out by VAR is very, very high.
Well, VAR is a whole different beastie, isn't it? I mean, why? I still can't understand why referees can't routinely go to the side of the pitch, look at a screen, make a decision, boom, done.
Right, that's the sensible thing and the obvious thing to do. And so you have to ask, why are they not doing it? And it's because Mike Riley, who runs the limited company that chooses referees, in other words, it is a profit-making organisation. Okay, let's just get that out there. It operates the way Riley wants it to operate for his reasons. Now, on an entirely different subject, which bears no relation at all to Mike Riley and referees or anything like that, it's completely different. Okay. More money is bet every weekend in China on the Premier League than the Premier League TV contract over 5 years, every single week. Now, please tell me that it's okay to have betting associated with football, having them sponsor you, having betting companies owning football clubs when that is happening. And wouldn't it be, if you were somebody running a bookie in China, wouldn't it help to have somebody controlling what the referees do to affect the results?
Wow, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds almost far-fetched, but actually it sounds extremely logical and very, very likely. Because we've said on the podcast before, when you all remember in the 80s and 90s, all the scandal of fixing matches in Italy, and everybody went, oh, well, that's Italy. Why do we not think that could happen in England? What's the difference?
And it's happened much more recently than that in Scotland.
Yeah, so we're not immune from any of that.
That's very true. I mean, look, without wishing to sound off, the Chinese culture is very... they've got a huge betting culture in China anyway. They bet on 2 raindrops going down a window. And that's just the type of culture that operates in China and in some other countries as well. So does this mean that the Premier League could be corrupted by a betting entity from China? Well, certainly, yeah. Yes. I mean, but I think any league could be corrupted, and it could come from any country as well. So I think anywhere there's football, anywhere there's money, it's always open to corruption or manipulation.
Manipulation's a good word because that's what happens when a VAR decision is made. It's manipulating the game. It's not changing the game, but not with a full stop at the end of it. I
mean, rugby union has the same thing, VAR, and the big difference is it's on a big screen at the ground where everyone can see it, and the referee gets a message from their equivalent, the VAR, saying there's something you should look at. You, referee, should look at. So the referee looks at it, and you hear the conversation between him and the VAR guy, and he's saying, "Oh, look at this, right there it is. We think that's a forward pass." And the referee looks and says, "No, I'm okay with my decision." And everyone in the crowd hears what's being said. They say, "Yeah, okay, we understand."
We disagree or we agree, but
we disagree, but we understand it.
There's transparency there, yes. And that's the issue. And you're looking at the referee's ability to make a decision as well, because once you start removing the ability to make a decision from the referee, well, what's the point in having a referee at all if you're going to just have VAR in Stockley Park? There's no sense in having a ref.
Well, when we played in the park as kids, we didn't have a referee, did we?
No. Of course, he didn't stop a couple of knee-high tackles taking me down every now and again.
I know, but if you believe you need a referee, then allow him to be a referee.
Yeah, I wonder if kids now in the park, like we used to play, now that you've got videos on your phone, they ask somebody to video it. So if there's a dispute, the little kids can go and have a little look at the video, have their own little VAR.
Well, it'd be good, wouldn't it?
It would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah. But let's be honest, if the referee could have a little look at the pitch side monitor, as happened once during this last week, the referee ran across, had a look, made his decision, came back. And in rugby, Geoff does, because people say, Mike Riley says, it would take too long to do it that way.
It takes 3.5 minutes to decide the most obvious handball you've ever seen in your life. It happened at the weekend. They say that to change the decision, the result, it must be clearly and obviously wrong. If it's clearly and obviously wrong, you can see it in a second. By definition, it is clear and obvious. Yeah. If it takes you 3.5 minutes, then it was not clear and obvious.
One of the things, I mean, you weren't with us at the time, Geoff, but we started watching the Burnley-Norwich game, didn't we? Or Norwich-Burnley on Saturday after the show on Global. And there was a sending off, and I forget who got sent off. It was the second Norwich sending off. It was literally a 2-footed tackle, completely off the ground. It was so obvious. Those who were completely visually impaired would have been able to see it. It was that obvious. And yet it still had to go to VAR. Why? What was the purpose of taking it to VAR?
I mean, everybody was watching the game and the commentators on the TV. As soon as the tackle went in, everybody went, oh, ouch. It was quite clear. And then, wait a minute, it's going to VAR. His feet were up before he'd even left the dressing room, weren't they? I mean, it was dreadful.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, it reminded me of, there was a tackle on, I think it was Boateng, and it kind of made his shin flex. And that was a good few seasons ago. It reminded me of that tackle. It was as obvious as that.
Yeah, never in any doubt, red card. But my point was that in rugby, does it take any longer or less time for him to go to the pitch side monitor than it does to go to Stockley Park? No, of course not. Let's move on. We all know VAR is not working. The technology is great. The technology is impartial, but the people running it are not.
Indeed.
And certainly not. They are fallible. That is for sure. They're changing the handball rule, aren't they? So not from shoulder, but from under the armpits. Not to make the rule better, but to make it easier for the people in VAR, I think.
Hold on. Haven't they just changed that to the shoulder? I'm kind of slightly lost as to where this is going.
It's always been the shoulder.
It's now the bottom of the armpit.
Okay, that kind of almost makes sense, but where does the armpit stop and the arm begin?
That's the point. They're going to have to make shirts that have got a different colour in that
that area.
Seriously, they will.
Are we talking armpit hair or skin?
This is the problem. Nobody knows.
They will make shirts which have a different colour there, and they will rule. But then the question will be: is it the front of the ball that touches, or the side, or all the ball, or
But again, this is such a simple thing to deal with. Handball should be anything from the elbow down to the end of the fingers. Everything above it is not your hand. It's your arm. It's different. It's a different part of the body.
All they need to do is go back to the original rule, which was perfectly good, and trust the referees to get it right. And if they make a mistake sometimes, well, okay.
They're making mistakes.
VAR makes mistakes as well. So the thing that's brought in to eliminate mistakes is not eliminating mistakes. So why not go back to referees being in charge?
That's what I think. Referees and a pitch side monitor.
Yeah.
And that should be it. All right, let's move on because we've got a lot to get through. Watford have sacked Nigel Pearson with 2 games to go. Watford are known for sacking managers. The next manager, apparently, will be their 13th manager in 9 years. I mean, I was quite surprised. Sean Dyche was there 13 managers ago. But they sacked him. They sacked Nigel Pearson before Bournemouth against Southampton, which was a game that had some bearing on Watford's relegation battle. But they didn't even wait for the result of that. They sacked him. Apparently after, and I'm sort of quoting, frank discussions between Nigel Pearson and the chairman. But there must be more behind that. Why with 2 games to go? And they've appointed the under-23 coach as interim manager for the 2 games, who they'd appointed as interim manager before Pearson took over.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to this was to think that Pearson was on a big bonus for keeping them in the Premier League and they don't want to pay the bonus. So, knowing that they're safe, they fire him. He's not there for when the
bonuses come round.
That's the only thing I can think of that makes any sense.
He must have upset somebody there or something, because it seems weird, Steve, that 2 games to go. What difference is that going to make not having him there?
You look at the difference that a win, 3 points make, amongst a group of 5 or 6 teams that have averaged less than 1 point per match. So 3 points is a huge result, particularly with only 2 matches to go. So the theory, if we can call it that, is that if they can get this new manager bounce in just one match.
Well, just to break it to you, they're playing City tonight.
Yeah,
they're playing Man City tonight at home, and then the next game is against Arsenal.
Yeah, that's right.
Last two matches against Man City, combine them, they've lost 14-0.
yeah. So, if Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, Solskjaer, and Jurgen Klopp all came in to manage those last two games for Watford, they still lose them. So, what difference does it make?
I can't see that it makes any difference at all, to be honest. But
I think of Watford, because they've sacked it'll be 4 managers in one season this season, 13 in 9 years. They don't mind pulling the trigger, do they, the Watford owners? I think it's a churlish thing to say, but they kind of deserve to go down as punishment for being such arseholes.
Say what you think, Chris.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably quite a fair comment, actually. I think they do deserve it. But also, you've got to bear in mind that the Pozzo family, when they owned the 3 clubs, one in Spain, Watford and Udinese, it is highly questionable what they were doing, moving players between those 3 clubs as and when they needed them. So, oh no, Watford needs some players. We'll ship some over from Udinese on loan. It's very questionable. So, yeah, they deserve to go down.
I'm looking at Aston Villa's last 2 games, West Ham and Arsenal. They're not going to be easy games. I fancy West Ham to win or at least get a draw. I mean, West Ham is safe. Arsenal could actually send both Watford and Villa down, but Bournemouth's last game is interesting because they've got Everton. Everton have got nothing to play for. They can't change position.
And yet they won last night.
Can't go up anyway.
They won last night, didn't they? Which they really, again, a nothing game for them.
And it was a shocking game.
Yeah, true enough. But they did beat Sheffield United, who've been great all season. So Everton could still be playing in that game. But, yeah, Aston Villa and Watford could both get sent down. I mean, Norwich are already down. Aston Villa second from bottom. Bournemouth, they've been quite good lately, though, Bournemouth. They've been unlucky.
Yeah. They've been erratic.
They've been erratic, but they have been unlucky. Out of Watford, Bournemouth and Aston Villa, who would be your pick to stay up, guys? I mean, who do you think's better? Who's the better team that deserves to stay up?
Bournemouth.
Probably Bournemouth.
Because Watford, when Nigel Pearson took over, Watford started looking like quite a good mid-table team.
Well, if they'd had him for the whole season and performed on average per points, average points per game, the same as they have under Pearson, they would be above Everton at the moment.
But unfortunately, the damage was done, and they've gone and done some more damage now.
Yeah, he rescued them, and you can criticise their performances since the lockdown. They were really on form going into the lockdown. It really damaged them, and they don't seem to have got going again.
Yeah.
This is an important factor that we don't really take into account. These guys haven't played football for the best part of nearly 3 months. That's going to take its toll. You've got no crowd there. You're going to get strange results getting produced, and you're going to see teams that were performing well before the lockdown suddenly drop like a stone. I mean, you look at Leicester. Leicester all of a sudden are just starting to fall to pieces.
Yeah, they've been dreadful, haven't they, since the restart. So, I mean, even himself, Brendan Rodgers, said that the last few performances have not been of a top 4 team. He's very disappointed. I can imagine. They could still drop out the top 4. Man United should probably do it.
I think it's likely they'll drop out of the top 4. Leicester have been incredibly unlucky with injuries. Not the number of them, but it's all their best players. I don't think he's been able to put his top 4 players on the pitch together once this season.
Yeah, they have been unlucky with that. That's true.
They've also been very, very fortunate with Vardy still producing the goods. I mean, 33 years old. He can't continue in that vein. He's still running around like a 27-year-old. But I fear for them slightly next season because I think you're looking at a mid-table side next season. I think Vardy
going to slow down.
He's going to slow down at some point. They've not got a ready-made replacement for Vardy, so I think that.
And yeah, he's probably going to win the Golden Boot this season.
Yeah,
top player, top scorer.
And despite being out for a significant part of the season.
Yeah, like Kane, he was out for a long time. Yeah.
I just don't see him being able to continue in that vein for next season. I really don't.
Well, I think he's got a couple more seasons. I mean, these players can stay much fitter for much longer.
Yeah, we'll
look
see.
At Cristiano Ronaldo.
I mean, he got the body of a 20-year-old. So, yeah, all right. We think Watford and Aston Villa are going to go down. Bournemouth, I mean, their stadium, we were saying, Geoff, the other day, 11,500 stadium, been in the Premiership for 5 years, punching above their weight a little bit. Yeah, really.
Promoted sides since the Premier League started average 3.8 years in the Premier League before they go down again. Bournemouth very much punched above their weight. Of course, the big problem for them, the huge problem if they go down, is that they broke the Football League fair play rules in the Championship to get promoted. And the penalty is sort of 30 million fine or something like that will apply if they go down.
They haven't got £30 million to splash out
That's what
either.
I'm saying.
So they desperately got to stay up.
But it's they who created the offence, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're the ones who.
That's a blank. Yeah, they're just avoiding it by avoiding relegation.
If they end up with a £30 million fine, that's Callum Wilson gone for a start, and then just about
anybody that get money.
About 3 players will go, maybe 4, just to finance that.
Well, I mean, Nathan Ake's off to Man City for 35 million. They said yesterday.
There you go.
So they've covered it. Somehow.
Maybe,
But they'll be left struggling in the Championship if that happens.
Well, they might be,
They'll go into free fall. I mean, if you look at the Championship is the Premiership light. Most of those sides that are in the Championship have been in the Premiership relatively recently, in sort of living memory, and they're all good sides. They're all good sides. So Bournemouth, if they end up sanctioned, they're going to have big trouble.
Well, they've got the parachute payment, remember, which the other sides in the Championship don't have. So they've got a financial advantage there.
Swings and roundabouts.
They use their parachute payment to pay the fine.
Yeah, I was going to say. Here's your parachute payment. Keep it. It's yours. All right. Just before we have a little look at the games coming up before the next podcast, you mentioned that the Championship, Leeds United have been promoted. What I'm looking forward to, I just want to give you a couple of stories and then just have a chat about Leeds. I'm looking forward to seeing Bielsa giving press conferences and interviews because their manager Bielsa is quite a character. There was a time when his team in Argentina lost a cup game and a load of ultras came outside his house. So he went outside with a grenade in his hand and his finger in the ring pool and said, if you don't go away now, I'm going to pull this and we'll all get blown up. And then when he lost the Championship in Argentina, he went and lived in a monastery with nuns for 3 months to punish himself because he felt so guilty. So he is a character. But what do we make of Leeds going up? What are they going to bring?
They're going to bring attacking, attractive football.
And will they keep Bielsa? Because he's on a 1-year rolling contract.
Knowing Bielsa's history, he'll probably resign. But I mean, that's kind of what he does.
Yeah, I've done my job. I'm off.
I'm sure he'll want to stay and see what he can do.
I'm just looking forward to seeing him unicycle to work or something like that. So just doing something completely bizarre. He's going to be good entertainment value. Forget Leeds. Bielsa's just going to be the entertainment.
He's the entertainment. I mean, when you say unicycle to work, it's probably not far from the truth. He lives above a shop in Wetherby in a little one-room flat. He uses public transport. He walks to work every day. Apparently, people have stopped to offer him a lift, and he said, "No, I'm all right." I mean, he's an interesting character, and I think that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and Leeds have been playing brilliant attacking football.
I think Leeds could actually do quite well. I think Leeds could do what Sheffield United have done, actually. They're a good side. They're a really decent side.
They need a goal scorer. I mean, Patrick Bamford is not the answer in the Premier League. No, having said that, now that I've said that and people can go back and check, you'll find Bamford will get 25 goals next season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's 16 years since he's been out of the Premier League. I think they've had more managers than the years have passed.
Yeah.
The list of managers goes on and on there. They've been a bit of a rocky road. So he's been there 2 years now, Bielsa, kind of steadied the ship a bit.
Yeah, very much so. Well, he's turned them into a really, really good football team.
It was a hell of a ship that needed steadying. I mean, under David O'Leary, and the whole spending spree that was Leeds United, they actually looked an incredibly good side as well. People forget, I know a lot of money was spent at Leeds, but they did look the real deal. And to see how they fell from grace, if you like, been in the doldrums for 15, 16 seasons, it was sad to see because they are a good side. They're a well supported side. The supporters are great. They're a big club. They really are.
Yeah, just to sort of clarify what you said, they did really, really well under O'Leary, and then they started spending the money.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah,
Ridsdale went out and he borrowed from the bank 60 million to buy the players that he believed would take them to the next level, and of course they were worse than the ones who they already had, and that's when they went into administration or something like that.
But the irony is, David O'Leary was the one who took the flak for that, and it wasn't really O'Leary's fault.
It was all Ridsdale. And there's one story which sums Ridsdale up perfectly. They bought a left back from Charlton. I can't remember the kid's name, but it was quite a huge signing at the time. And this left back's talking to his agent as they go into the meeting with Ridsdale, and the agent says, "Look, leave it with me, and I'll get you 20,000 a week." And that would be fantastic. So they go into the meeting and they introduce each other, blah blah blah, have a cup of tea, etc. And they start off, and the first thing that Ridsdale says is, "Okay, I'm not going to offer you a penny more than 30,000 a week." So this the fullback looks at the agent, and the agent's saying, "Shut up,
shut up." Pretend like you're disappointed. Fabulous. Listen, we've got to move on. This Sunday we'll see the end of the Premier League, but some teams do still have 2 games to go. As I always say, this podcast won't go out till tomorrow evening. Today, the 21st of July, Tuesday, there are 2 games. Watford against Man City. I think we've just already said Man City to win that one.
How many will City get, I think, is the question.
Yeah, that's more than... okay.
Yeah, and can Watford end up with a minus score as opposed to 0?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be no new manager spike bounce back there.
No.
But it'll be interesting to see how the players react in general. Aston Villa against Arsenal, same thing, I think.
Yeah, I can see a 1-0 win. It won't be a big score.
You don't think it'll be a big score? Geoff, Aston Villa, Arsenal? Yeah. Aston Villa desperately need to win that game.
They must win. They've got to come up with something. So...
Draw.
Yeah, but a draw is the least likely result, isn't it? It's the one that happens least often. I'll go against the grain and say, no, Villa are going to win. They're going to make it interesting at the bottom.
And I'm going to go for the least likely draw. Wednesday, Man United against West Ham. Fascinating game. West Ham are safe now, Geoff. Happily for you.
I think West Ham are safe, and I think Man United will win by two goals. Whether it's 3-1 or 2-0.
After their FA Cup shock loss to Chelsea on Sunday, I think Man United will bounce back. The other game closer than Man United West Ham, Liverpool Chelsea. Big game for Chelsea, although Leicester are faltering, so Chelsea's position in the top 4 is pretty much done for.
We've discussed Chelsea's keeper and the back line in the past. I think Liverpool 2 or 3-1.
But Liverpool have been pretty bad since they won the title. They've sort of really taken the foot off the gas.
Chelsea beat Liverpool in the cup, so there's no reason why they have to lose.
So what are you saying?
I think Liverpool will win.
Superb. And then on Sunday, everybody plays at 3 o'clock kick-off in the UK. Let me just run through all 10 games. Arsenal-Watford. Arsenal.
4 or 5-0.
4 or 5-0. Wow, we don't like Watford, do we? We don't reckon their chances at all.
No.
Burnley against Brighton. Brighton safe.
Burnley 2 or 3-0, I reckon there.
Yeah, all right. Chelsea against Wolves.
Ooh.
Now, as a Tottenham fan, I would like to see Wolves lose that one, so that we do need that 6th place.
Okay, my theory: Chelsea are going to want to keep their players fit for the FA Cup final. I think Wolves are going to do Chelsea by a single goal.
Wow!
And it's good for Wolves. You know that it'll cement their European credentials. So
they do need to win that.
They do need to win. Yeah.
And I will tell you how they're going to do it. There's a lot of rubbish talked about Chelsea's defence, and most of it, 99% of it, is rubbish. There is one area where Chelsea are noticeably worse than most in the Premier League, and that is conceding goals from counter-attack. And what do Wolves do?
They're inside.
All right, so we think Wolves could do Chelsea at Chelsea. Big one for me. Crystal Palace against Tottenham. Crystal Palace have lost. People have lost count how many games they've lost in a row now. I think 7 or whatever it is, but they have lost a lot of games since the restart.
They haven't won a match since Tutankhamun died, have they?
Yeah, but I don't know what the link is there between the two, but there you are. But Crystal Palace are at home to Tottenham. I just have that dreadful feeling that it'll be the game that Crystal Palace turn around their losing streak and stop it. Tottenham need to win that. They've got to win it. We beat Leicester. We've put ourselves in a good position to finish 6th, depending on what Wolves do. But if we win that...
I can't see Crystal Palace being bothered.
I'd love to say 1-0 to Crystal Palace, but I won't. I think it's just going to be a 1-0 win to Tottenham.
All right. Everton against Bournemouth.
Well, if we're going to say, as we did before, that Bournemouth will stay up, they've got to win that match, haven't they?
Yeah, no, I think that they will win it as well.
Oh, all right.
I think that's going to be a tight game. But
I think it'll be a disappointing draw, and Bournemouth will be waiting the results of the other games. Leicester against Man United. That's a big one.
That's a
big one for top 4. Both teams need to win that one to get in the top 4. Leicester against Man United.
And Chelsea be praying for a draw.
Chelsea be playing, yeah.
Given Leicester's current form, I mind you saying that Man United the other day, it's a really hard, tough one to call. Do you know what? I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw.
0-0? Wow.
0-0.
I'm going to go for 2-2. Just to be bizarre. But I think it'll be one of those games where they're both desperate, which they are, and it'll be one of those where just going up to the last minute, one of them will equalise and dent the other's hopes. It'll be just one of those sort of fairy tale, you couldn't have written this kind of games where one or the other team is winning with seconds to go and the other one will equalise, and it'll be a disappointment for both teams.
Okay, I think it'll be Mike Riley will. Manchester United will win. courtesy of a VAR decision.
A VAR. All right, then we've got Man City against Norwich. Norwich already relegated. Man City guaranteed second place. Neither team cares.
Shouldn't we rename that Man City versus Norwich 0?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I think so.
Guardiola has been saying he is going to rest players. His priority is the semi-final of the Champions League against Real Madrid. So it will be the second team of Man City against Norwich, but Norwich will still get 0 and City will score.
Right, okay, so that's a foregone. Newcastle against Liverpool.
I think Newcastle might actually sneak that just because they can. I think Liverpool won't be bothered at this point, and it's a nothing game.
All right, Geoff.
But Newcastle really don't care.
No.
They're not playing at all. They've had enough and they want to go away somewhere. So Liverpool will win.
All right, Southampton against Sheffield United.
That is going to actually be a good game. Draw.
Okay, Southampton, Sheffield United, Steve?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a draw, yeah.
All right, and finally, West Ham against Aston Villa.
West Ham to win that one. I really think I reckon West Ham could do a right number on Aston Villa here.
They might already be down by then, Villa.
If Villa are down, West Ham win very comfortably. If not, West Ham will win by 1.
Well, all right, let's say West Ham to win that one. Basically, we all think that. All right, that's all we've got time for. But before we say our goodbyes, time for Geoff's trivia question with the answer.
There is just one team in the history of the Football League that have been in every position in their division for the whole during the season. Okay, and the question was, which team is it?
So they've been first, they've been 20th, they've been 18th. During one season, they've
occupied every position.
I don't think that's ever happened.
Right. Well, it was in the Championship during the 2006-2007 season, and it was Sunderland.
Wow, that's incredible.
Who started at the bottom and basically gradually moved through the season to finish top of the Championship and be promoted to the Premier League.
So they were actually bottom and then got promoted and occupied every place in between, but not in sequence. I mean, it was up, down, up, down. We'll be back next week with more Hitting the Bar. But first of all, I'm Chris Karle.
I'm Geoff Saunders.
And I'm Steve Kenton.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Geoff. Steve Kenton. Good to see you. Been a while. We'll be back next week. Thank you very much. That was Hitting the Bar, the football podcast.